Hey, Patriots fans! We're back with an exclusive video and the latest updates on our beloved New England Patriots. Before we jump in, don't forget to subscribe to Patriots Hub and hit that like button. This way, you'll stay updated and never miss any breaking news or exclusive content. Christian BARMORE leaving the New England Patriots? That's the kind of sentence that, just a few months ago, would have been unthinkable for any die-hard Pats fan. The man has been a core part of the defense, a disruptive force on the line, and arguably one of the brightest young talents on that side of the ball. But now, whispers are swirling through league circles, and NFL media insiders are dropping subtle hints that something might be brewing behind closed doors in Foxborough. Is this just off-season smoke with no fire? Or are we on the cusp of seeing a franchise cornerstone walk away? Sources close to the situation suggest that BARMORE, entering the final stages of his rookie deal, may not be entirely happy with how things are developing in New England, from contract talks to team direction. And when you look at it, it starts to make some sense. With Belichick out of the picture and a new regime try to put its own stamp on the roster, guys like BARMORE might be left wondering where exactly they fit into the Patriots' future. It's not a trade yet. It's not a release yet. But it's definitely a situation worth watching very closely. And here's where things get interesting, because BARMORE hasn't publicly said anything. No cryptic tweets, no deleted Instagram photos, no God's plan captions. Just silence. But sometimes silence speaks volumes, especially in today's NFL, where players know exactly how to stir speculation without saying a word. Insiders from multiple media outlets have noted that BARMORE's name has come up in quiet conversations between general managers, not necessarily in hard trade talks, but more like, hey, what would it take to get him? That alone raises eyebrows. This is a guy who still has tremendous upside, still wreaks havoc in the trenches, and still plays with a chip on his shoulder every snap. You don't just move on from a player like that unless something's off behind the scenes. And right now, the vibe inside Gillette Stadium isn't exactly calm and steady. There's a sense of flux, of transition, and that can make even the most loyal guys start thinking about greener pastures. If BARMORE truly is on the outs, whether by his choice or the team's, it could be the first major domino in a full-blown roster reshaping. Dig a little deeper, and you'll find that this isn't just about BARMORE himself. This might be about culture, about scheme, about a changing identity for the Patriots as they try to figure out who they are post-Belichick. Let's not forget, BARMORE thrived under a very specific system, one built around disciplined gap control, intelligent blitz packages, and a do-your-job mentality that was drilled into every player's head. But that structure is evolving now. New coaching staff, new philosophies, and perhaps a new way of looking at defensive line play. It's possible, just possible, that BARMORE doesn't quite fit what the Patriots are planning moving forward. And that raises a huge question. Does New England let go of a player who doesn't match their new vision, even if he's a proven producer? Or do they try to bend their plans to keep a talent like BARMORE happy and engaged? These are the kinds of franchise-defining choices that ripple for years. One wrong move, and suddenly you're watching your best defensive lineman wear someone else's jersey while your unit struggles for identity and production. And what about the contract? Let's not ignore the financial angle, because in today's NFL, it's always about the money, even when it's not really about the money. BARMORE's rookie deal is nearing its end, and word is his camp won a serious payday. Not just fair market value, top-end defensive tackle money. Think Jeffrey Simmons numbers, maybe even creeping into Quinnen Williams territory. And honestly, can you blame him? He's been the Patriots' most consistent interior presence, commanding double teams and collapsing pockets, while other guys reap the rewards. But the Patriots aren't exactly known for handing out huge second contract to linemen unless they absolutely have to. Historically, New England has let guys walk rather than break the bank. So if BARMORE and his reps are coming to the table with big demands, it might be setting the stage for an eventual split. Not out of animosity, but out of simple business strategy. And that, more than anything, could explain why BARMORE's name is starting to float around in league chatter. It's not personal, it's financial. The other layer here, and it's one that insiders are starting to point to, is team direction. The Patriots are clearly in a rebuild, whether they want to admit it or not. They got a new head coach, a likely rookie QB under center, and a ton of question marks at skill positions on both sides of the ball. For a guy like BARMORE, who's entering the prime of his career, the prospect of spending the next 2 or 3 years on a bottom-feeding team might not be all that appealing. He's a competitor. He wants to win. He wants to play meaningful football in January. And if that doesn't look like it's happening in Foxborough anytime soon, it would make sense for him to quietly start looking elsewhere, or at least make himself open to it. Again, nothing has been confirmed, and no trade request has been filed. But when the smoke is this thick, it's hard not to wonder if a fire is quietly burning underneath. The Patriots might not be pushing him out the door, but they might not be standing in the way if someone else comes knocking. And who would that someone else be? That's where things get spicy. Around the league, multiple teams could use a player like BARMORE. Elite defensive linemen don't exactly grow on trees. Think about teams like the Chicago Bears, who are desperate to plug the middle and finally give their edge rushers a clean shot. Or maybe the Detroit Lions, who are building a nasty, physical defense and could use a tone setter up front. Even the Dallas Cowboys, if they want to get serious about fixing their run defense, could get into the mix. These aren't just hypothetical fits. These are real teams with real needs and the cap flexibility to make something happen. If BARMORE's available, even unofficially, there's going to be a market. And once there's a market, it becomes a question of value. What would New England want in return? Draft picks? A player swap? Either way, it could be one of those blockbuster moves that shakes up an entire offseason narrative. We've seen it before, and it's always the unexpected names that generate the biggest waves. Let's not forget how the Patriots operate, with silence, with calculation, and with very little warning. If BARMORE is being quietly shopped, it would make perfect sense that the team is denying everything, keeping a tight lid on conversations, and acting as if all is well. That's how they've always done business. Remember the Chandler Jones trade? Or the Jamie Collins situation? Those moves came out of nowhere, at least to the public. Internally, the team had been preparing for weeks. It's entirely possible that the same thing is happening right now. They could already be talking to suitors. They could already have an internal shortlist of guys to replace him, whether it's through the draft, free agency, or from within. And BARMORE? He might already know that his time is running out. That's why this rumor, as strange as it might seem, actually fits the classic Patriots pattern. Quiet exits, minimal drama, but major ripple effects. If you followed this team long enough, you know better than to dismiss the whispers. Lastly, let's entertain the idea that this is all just noise, but noise for a reason. Maybe BARMORE doesn't leave. Maybe this is all just strategic pressure. His agent leaks a little here, whispers a little there, and suddenly the Patriots feel that clock ticking. Maybe it's leverage. Maybe it's a wake-up call. Maybe it's a negotiation tactic meant to push the Patriots into acting fast before another team swoops in with a Godfather offer. That happens all the time in the league, and it wouldn't be surprising here. But whether it's noise, smoke, or a true spark of fire, something is shifting in New England. The team is no longer the fortress of the early 2000s. Guys are looking around, evaluating their future, and thinking twice about sticking around if the vision isn't clear. BARMORE's future, once solid, once unquestioned, now feels like a mystery. One thing's for sure. This isn't the last time we'll be talking about Christian BARMORE and the New England Patriots in the same sentence this offseason. Christian BARMORE leaving the Patriots might have started as a whisper, but now it's starting to feel like a low rumble turning into a full-on tremor. What we're seeing isn't just a player potentially on the move, it's a reflection of where the Patriots are as a franchise. Post-Brady, post-Belichick, post-Dynasty. We're looking at a team in transition, trying to rediscover its identity. And when that happens, players like BARMORE, young, talented, but tied to an old vision, often find themselves caught in the middle. League insiders continue to float his name as someone teams are monitoring. That's insider speak for he might be had for the right price. But what would that price even be? A second-round pick? A late first? A veteran starter and a pick combo? It's hard to tell, but one thing is becoming clearer. BARMORE's name is hotter now than it's ever been, and you don't reach that level unless there are serious discussions being had behind closed doors. Something is happening, and whether or not a deal materializes, the way this is playing out publicly, or rather, quietly but visibly, feels intentional. There's a message being sent, and it's not just to fans. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to Patriots Hub and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our New England Patriots. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. One of the most fascinating parts of this potential departure is how little pushback we're hearing from Patriots insiders. Typically, when a baseless rumor pops up, team-friendly media jumps in to squash it. You'll hear things like, "No truth to that report," or "Team has no intention of trading X-player." But with BARMORE, crickets. That silence speaks volumes. It suggests that while the team might not want to move him, they're at least entertaining the idea. Maybe it's a contingency plan. Maybe they're floating trial balloons to gauge market value. But make no mistake, when your best young defensive lineman is trending in trade rumors and no one rushes to shut them down, something is up. What's even more curious is the lack of a clear replacement on the roster. There's no heir apparent, no next man up ready to plug that hole. That's what makes this scenario feel even more serious. You don't start leaking info about potentially moving a core player unless you've made peace with the consequences, or unless you're staring down a situation where keeping him might cause more issues than letting him go. The locker room aspect is another layer that can't be ignored. BARMORE, by all accounts, is well-liked by his teammates. He's passionate, intense, and leads by example. But that fire can cut both ways. Sometimes, that same intensity that fuels dominance on Sundays can spark friction behind the scenes, especially if a player feels undervalued or unheard. We don't know if that's the case here, but we've seen this movie before. A star player reaches a point in his rookie deal where the team is hesitant to commit big money, and he starts to wonder whether he's part of the long-term vision. That doubt creates tension. Tension leads to detachment. And eventually, detachment leads to departure. If BARMORE feels like his voice isn't being heard in meetings, or if he's not vibing with the new coaching staff the way he did with the old regime, it could be pushing him toward the exit. This kind of slow-burning disconnect isn't always public. It builds over time, behind the scenes, until one day you wake up and the relationship is over. Right now, we might be somewhere in the middle of that journey. And we have to talk about what this means for the defense overall. If the Patriots let BARMORE go, whether now or after the season, it's going to create a massive void in the middle of that front seven. We're talking about a guy who commands double teams on nearly every snap, who frees up linebackers to make plays, who can rush the passer and stop the run with equal effectiveness. Players like that aren't just plug-and-play. They're rare. And if he walks or is traded, there's a good chance the entire defense regresses. This isn't just about talent. It's about tone setting. BARMORE is one of those guys who brings juice to the whole unit. You can't just replace that with a rotational veteran or a mid-round rookie. So if this rumor becomes reality, the Patriots better have a plan. Not just a roster plan, but a philosophical one. Because removing a centerpiece like BARMORE without a clear blueprint for the future, that's the kind of move that signals a deep rebuild, not just a reset. And that's something fans in Foxborough might not be ready to accept, even if the team already has. There's also the question of timing. Why now? Why are these rumors surfacing in August, just as training camp is ramping up and the regular season looms on the horizon? It could be strategic. Maybe the Patriots want to get ahead of a potential holdout or locker room distraction. Maybe BARMORE's agent is applying pressure to speed up contract talks. Or maybe, and this is the wild card, a team has already made a call. That's how this usually works. One GM picks up the phone and says, "Hey, what would it take?" And suddenly, everything changes. The tone of internal meetings shifts. Trade scenarios start flying around. And before you know it, a deal that seemed unlikely becomes very, very real. The NFL is a league built on timing and leverage, and right now, both sides might feel like the clock is ticking. Whether it's BARMORE's camp trying to secure a long-term deal or the Patriots front office weighing whether they want to commit that kind of money, the urgency feels real. And urgency, in this league, often leads to big decisions being made fast. And let's be real, there's always a media angle to these things. When players want out or want new deals, the first step is often media manipulation. You leak a rumor. You plant a story. You get your guy's name out there. That's how you generate momentum. It's how you force a team's hand. And while we don't know who's behind the recent BARMORE chatter, the pattern fits. This could be the start of a leverage play. Maybe BARMORE doesn't want to leave, but he wants to be paid. And the Patriots, known for being frugal with second contracts, might be dragging their feet. This is how players fight back without going full diva. You let the media run with it. You let fans start asking questions. You create just enough pressure that the team has to act. Either they call your bluff and trade you, or they sit down and work out a deal. But either way, you force movement. And if there's one thing we know about NFL negotiations, it's that silence never lasts. Something is coming. The only question now is what form it takes. Now, imagine the fallout if a trade does happen. The Patriots would be sending a very clear message to the rest of the locker room. No one is untouchable. That can either be a galvanizing force or a morale killer, depending on how it's handled. Younger players might see it as a chance to step up. Veterans might see it as a signal that this team is farther from contention than they thought. And for fans, it would be another reminder that the days of dynasty dominance are truly over. No more sacred cows. No more building around a core. Just churn, evaluation, and long-term planning. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just different. But when you let go of a young star like BARMORE, you better have the support of the building. Otherwise, you risk losing more than just a player. You risk losing the culture, the buy-in, the belief. And for a team trying to rebuild its identity from the ashes of the Belichick era, that could be the most dangerous outcome of all. So here we are, watching, waiting, speculating. Christian BARMORE is still a Patriot, for now. But the signs are there. The whispers are growing louder. The dots are starting to connect. Whether it's about money, scheme fit, locker room dynamics, or all of the above, this is a situation on the brink. Maybe it blows over. Maybe BARMORE gets paid and becomes a foundational piece for the next generation. Or maybe he's traded in the next few weeks, and we're left dissecting how it all fell apart. That's the beauty and the chaos of the NFL. Nothing stays stable for long. Stars rise, stars leave, and teams evolve. If BARMORE walks, it won't be the end of the world, but it will be the end of an era. One more reminder that the Patriots, once the model of consistency, are now just another team trying to find its way in a league that never stops moving. Keep your eyes on this one. Something's coming. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our New England Patriots, be sure to subscribe to Patriots Hub and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.